Hello, everyone. Welcome to WGSN-DB Going Solo Network. I am so happy to have you on the show here tonight. We are on Date the Right One, and it's going to be an exciting blowout kind of show because we've got an exciting guest with us here tonight. I am Cece Shatz. I'm your host. I'm the Doyenne of Relationship Building. We have all of our information right there on goingsolomedia.com, so you can find all of our wonderful hosts and guests, all of the information right there. Our guest tonight is very, very special, and so we want to get right to it. We're going to talk about dating like a king or queen, right? Wouldn't you like to be treated like a king or queen? I mean, sometimes I think myself, I would love to be treated like a queen. And so she's going to show us how to do that. So tonight we have with us the expert. Here we go. We have Lisa with us. How are you tonight?
Hello, everyone. How are you doing? How's Cece? How are you?
Oh, I'm doing good. I'm doing good. Lisa Valdez, you are the founder of Lisa Talks. Let's put that up here so everyone can see it. Lisa Talks Love, Self Love Coach. You're a certified sex educator and a dating and relationship expert. You have a wonderful website. It's lisatalkslove.com. So you guys can go on that and check it out. But tonight we're going to talk about dating like a king or queen. But before we start, let's just share with the audience why you started doing what you're doing, why you got into being, a dating coach.
Thank you so much, Cece, for having me. I'm excited to talk about this topic and really dive in to support your viewers and your listeners. I'm Lisa Velazquez. And as she already mentioned, I'm a dating and relationship coach with a focus on self love. And I help the high achieving single woman reconnect to her self value, heal from toxic relationships to reignite her sexy self. So, this topic is going to be so much fun, and I can't wait to get into it. But I'll share a little bit about me, like you asked. For me, learning over the years, I have a long story that we talked about on the last podcast, but I'll share briefly was that at a young age, I just noticed there was disempowerment in relationships as a teenager. I saw that women were being disempowered in their relationships and they were people pleasing. And I just felt like, I don't think I want to be like that. And I just saw that I don't think that we should have to be like that. And it's really part of social conditioning, right? So over the years, I was trusted by a lot of friends and colleagues who came to me for advice because I was compassionate from what they shared with me. And they were coming to me for sex advice. And not that I was this sex expert in college. I just was a safe space for people to talk about what was intimate in their lives. And as I spoke with everyone that wanted this sex advice, right, I noticed that, like I said before, from high school to college, there was disempowerment in relationships, and I wanted to focus on that and what we could do to learn to be empowered in our relationships as women. And then fast forward throughout my own life, I had a very, very tumultuous breakup at the end of graduate school. It was to the point where I wanted to, get married and have children. And I was with someone that I felt didn't want those things. So, you can show up being all the things that you want to be, but your partner needs to be aligned with the values that you share for the relationship that you have and the relationship that you desire. So when I noticed that, wait a second, I'm being everything I said that I am and who I am, this person was saying all these things and they're not being them. Me loving them more and doing more and showing up more and then constantly reminding them isn't going to change their behavior, right? Because I am showing up for this behavior. At the time I was putting up with that behavior, and it was a lot of promises that were, made but broken. So I find myself holding on to my end of a broken agreement, right? I made these agreements, but I am only half of the relationship. You can show up as your full self, but it's not your job to do the 100% for the other person. And I had to learn that. I grew up in a culture where I'm Latina. So I grew up in a culture where the women show up and create the success of the relationship. Like the relationship is based on the things that we do in service to the partner. But I realized that that was actually hurting me. And one day in my apartment, I had to decide, I love him, but I love me more. And I had to break up with him, recognizing that I knew I wanted a family. I knew I wanted to be married, but his behaviors were not aligned with that. And I had to face that. because if I didn't face it, the behavior would have never changed. I think about how many listeners and viewers right now are probably going through that or have been through that, right? So it's really about taking that step back and realizing, when did I stop honoring me? And that's the step I had to look at. Like, when did this stop for me? And it doesn't mean you're wrong or you did something bad or you're a bad person. It just is like, where did I end and this person begin? I kind of just didn't even see myself anymore. I was just being in service. But I knew that when I let go of that relationship, and this was my last year of graduate school, like, I realized I needed to like go back and look at how I got here. And that made me want to do, focusing on dating and relationship coaching more than focusing on sex education. And I have a clinical psychology, a master's background. And that made me want to bring those two together to look deeper into what has us stay or choose and stay with a partner that's not aligned. What's in our minds that has us believing, what's in our hearts that has us believing that we need to continue to work at love, right? There's doing the inner work, but the work, like, you don't need to be laborious in your relationship to make someone love you, and then from there, I dissected what was going on in my background. And then, recognize, oh, yes, I was taught to be a partner. I was taught to be in service. This is my default. I needed to learn to receive more. I needed to learn to like honor my own word. And that means if this isn't working, I need to back up and do some reflection, and we'll get into those tips. And but for me, from there, I realized
I think you're so right. Oh, we have a comment here. Let's see what they're saying. Oh. Hey. From Manchester, England.
You're waving. Hello.
Hi. Nice to see you. Thank you for listening. I think you're so right, because when I was doing research, I always do research before I have a show, even though, I kind of like live this stuff, but I always refresh and everything. And one thing they were saying was that a lot of articles that I read is that you have to, treat someone how you want to be treated, right? So you treat them how you want to be treated. So versus if they, they're a king, you treat them like a king. If you want to be treated like a queen, and you have to understand what your thing is. Like, that doesn't mean you have to be a servant or something like that. Exactly. But then you have to also step back and look at your boundaries too, because you have to look at what really works for you. And I love what you said, because I think you were spot on about, if the behavior is not matched, then you're not aligned. And so then you have to ask yourself, why are you not aligned? Are you not aligned because of yourself, something that you haven't healed from in the past, something different, something you want different? Are they doing something different? And so you really have to start asking those heavy, deep questions to be able to, move forward with it. So,
absolutely. I could not agree more. Yeah. I find the one thing that I realize is, like, when I say date like a queen, date like a king, it is how you treat yourself on the dating journey, on the relationship journey, right? Because the trap that I know that a lot of people can fall into, and specifically women, is like, I was doing these things and treating him so amazing. And if we're talking about masculine and feminine energy, not gender, just the energy, feminine energy is receptive energy. So women get to learn to receive. And that breakup for me happened 15 years ago. So I started to look at, like, where am I only being of service? Like, where can I pull back and learn to receive? Because when we learn to receive, we start to look at what we're attracting and how we're aligned. Like, when you set your boundaries, the first person to honor those boundaries is you. Okay. And we talked about this in the last podcast, right? Yeah. Was it reignite your sex, how to reignite your sexy self after heartbreak? You've got to set your own boundaries. And the first person to honor those boundaries is you. So you are the baseline. Everything begins with you. And you are supposed to know where you end and someone else begins. Because the right person will respect the boundaries. Okay. But you need to demonstrate them. And those boundaries are also part of your values, by you honoring what your values are. Like we talked about being healthy. And one of the biggest things I want to get into with this is about the clarity you need to have when you're going to date like a king or a queen, it's really important to set your intentions for how you want to date and the type of person you want to date and the type of relationship that you want. You need to have those things in your mind. The type of relationship you want, the type of person you want to date, and how you are, who you are, your values. Once you have those baselines, you need to honor them. That means as you date, you need to recognize and acknowledge and be honest with yourself about when a person is not aligned with you. So I'm going to talk about 3 tips today. They're called Get Real, Get Clear, Get Ready. So the Get Real is about being honest with where you are in your love life right now. If you're single and dating, you're single and not dating, recently divorced, just out of a relationship.
I'm going to take a compliment when I get one, thank you.
Well, thank you. Yeah.
We'll take it.
Virgil is out here flirting, having too much fun. Yeah. So like the main thing is like when you're real, you're honest about what's going on, right? And getting real is about looking at the choices that you've made that have gotten you where you are. Now, that does not mean you're in this horrible place. Like, I did all this, it's all my fault. That's not what I'm saying. I think it's important to take responsibility for yourself because it's about having the power to respond in situations in your life and not waiting for someone to live your life for you. You have that power. But getting real, it's about who you have been choosing and what you have been choosing consistently that has you have the results that you have right now in your love life, right? Because maybe you're going after someone you shouldn't be with, or maybe you're still staying with a person you shouldn't be with, or you're not putting yourself out there like you wish you would. And yes, there could be reasons for the reason, like the pandemic was a big reason why people weren't putting themselves out there, and we get it. But those are the reasons. And the most important thing is to get clear about those reasons. But the who is another one. Are you investing in someone that's not right for you? Because if you are, and it's not progressing to where you want to be, the results you have are for that reason. The second thing is get clear. Now, get clear has 2 pieces. So in get clear, it's about, okay, now I know all the choices I made. I was real with myself, and it's only your current reality. It's not permanent. Get real is not a permanent place. It's a current reality that can change if you move through the next 2 steps. So in get clear, what do you want? Do you want to be in a relationship? Do you want to date? Do you want to date to the point where you find your committed partner, get engaged and get married? Do you want to cohabitate? What does all that look like? Be honest with yourself about what it is that you actually want. And then from there, the second piece of get clear is, what do you need to release emotionally, sexually, physically, spiritually? Are you still living with an ex? Do you still have your ex's keys to their apartment and you broke up? Do you still have keys to their car? What are the attachments you have, right? Are you still having sex with them? Are you still having sex with a person that you hook up with every now and then, but you know you want something serious? Because if you don't clear that space, you are clogging the space to receive the type of partnership that you want. So you can have the desire, but if you don't have the clear intentions and space of alignment, it's not going to be able to come into your life because you're giving the universe.
Just to interrupt you real quick, I think that also is from any past relationships that you have or anything that's bothering you. If you've got hangups from when you were a kid on relationships and things like that, you have to start clearing that stuff up because it causes chaos when you're trying to date, because those things start coming up and getting in your face. So yeah, I just wanted to point that out.
Yeah, no, please jump in at any time. I just want to give the people a great content, and I'm happy to have more conversation. I wanted to add to what you're saying because this is so important. Because get clear that's why it's 2 pieces, because I can tell you those things, but unless we do the deep work, you're not going to be able to clear those things. When I work with my clients, we do love breakthrough session before we start the programs. That's always the first session before the whole program we go through a whole program, because we need to look at the past. We need to look at what were your love examples. right? Who taught you how to love? Looking at the people based on the relationship they had, whether that was your parents, a guardian, a grandparent, who aunt and uncle, whoever raised you. What were the examples of love that you saw, and were they healthy examples? And what did you learn from them? What type of identity, right? You go from the love example to the love identity. And what did this create an identity? Like, what do you think about yourself when it comes to love? And then that love identity from the love examples has you create a love story in your head about your own love life. Like, you maybe saw a very affectionate parent who was completely involved with, the other parent, but the other parent was distant, cold, disappearing a lot. So then you're like, you start thinking like, oh, like they left because of me. Or, I have to like go out there and work to achieve love. Like there's different things. Or you become the distant person. When someone loves you, you run away because you saw one of your parents do that. And then you created a story that love is dramatic, or love is uncomfortable. Love is too difficult. Like, and you get used to this chaos. So
but it's a little bit like the attachment, right? So it's your attachment. So like, for instance, I'll just use me as an example. My parents were loving, very into them, into the relationship. They, went everywhere together. They did everything together. They had a lot of fun together. There were things that maybe my mom didn't really like to do, but she did them with my dad. There's things my dad didn't really like to do, but he did it because my mom wanted to do, and they kind of did it. They had a really great balance, and my grandparents were the same way. So that is what I saw. So that is what I kind of do in relationships. I've seen myself do that. But then my partner, right, has a total different attachment where, their relationships were totally different. And in all the relationships I've had, I've noticed that all of their relationships are very, very different. And so that causes a lot of trouble because you're not aligned. Not like you can't get aligned, because you can if you truly care about each other, and you recognize that there's a difference here. And so then you have to start understanding what the other person's needs are. Do they need that little bit of freedom? Do they have to, because if you smother them too much, then they're going to run away, right? They're going to go away. So you have to create a balance. If she needs for me to be there, then how can I do it and still have my freedom? So those are things that I think have to get worked out as you're building a relationship, and that's what dating is. Dating is simply that, building a relationship. And so as you progress in it, then you start making decisions. Do I want to continue, or do I want to back off? Do I want to step out? And so it's those kind of things. So I'll go ahead and let you go. I just wanted to.
No, listen, I love it. This is wonderful. And it's such a great example. Mm-hmm. And that's why dating is so important, like you said, because when you're getting to know people and you ask them questions about their family down the line, you ask them how they grew up, and they can share that with you. Because what you don't want is someone that's not going to be welcome to the type of relationship style you do have. You sound like a companionship person. You want a companion to do things with. That's what you saw as a huge part of love. And I totally relate to that. I saw that as well growing up with my parents. Not everyone has seen that. However, even if a person didn't see that, they can still desire that. They can still say, I have always been looking for my person that wants to travel the world with me, like, go on excursions and just be very social. You can find someone that didn't grow up that way, but had that desire. Now, the issue is, if you find a person, and I don't mean you, Cece, I mean people in general. So the issue is, are you going to try to make someone that when they don't have those desires? Are you going to be courageous enough to walk away when a person doesn't share those desires? Right? Because you would you want someone molding you into something you don't want to be, that that you're not? So you have to ask yourself that. And it goes back to what you were saying, treat other people how you want to be treated. However, we have to look at if that's, it's a great statement and it's very true, but in the wrong hands, it's not. Because there's some people that don't have good intentions. They may not treat you well, and they expect that's the way you want to be treated. And it's like, no, if you're used to like not treating yourself well, that's not how I want to be treated. So I think it's really important to look at that. And the last piece in the, the 3-part scenario, I have the get real, get clear, and get ready, and I have more than that.
Should we do the last piece after a commercial?
Sure. I mean, I have more to share, but we can do it after commercial. Go right ahead.
We'll do a really quick commercial and then we'll come right back. So you guys, you're listening to Date the Right One on WGSN-DB Going Solo Network. We have Lisa here with us. I want to make sure you get her website. It's lisatalkslove.com. Lisa Talks with an S, Talks, Talks, Love, LOVE.com. And so we'll be right back. Welcome back to Date the Right One on WGSN-DB Going Solo Network. We want to thank you so much for joining us. Tonight we're talking about Date Like a King or Queen with Lisa. And say your last name.
Velazquez.
Velazquez. I always say Valdez, but it's a Velazquez. So we want to make sure that everyone knows you're the founder of Lisa Talks Love, self-love coach, certified sex educator, and you're a dating and relationship expert. So you really know your stuff. So we have been talking about the first part of the show. If you guys missed it, you got to go back. I started taking notes, but I couldn't take them fast enough because they were so good. I'm telling you, she's talking about all kinds of things. And I think that, as we progress and we want to start dating, we need to listen to shows like this because we need to not only, step out of the fear and start dating, right? Get out of it. Know what we want. I think that's one thing you said. Know what you want. And then also, when we start to date, realize that if our attachment style is different, if it's not working out, to really have, the gumption or the power to step back and look at it. Is it me? Is it them? Is it not working? And then make a decision as we want to move forward. So let's go further with the, because you had some more tips that we were going to talk about.
Sure. Yeah. So the last part of the 3-piece, the key points I had, and I have more, is get ready. So when you're getting ready, it's about embodying the values that you have, the desires you have for love, the needs that you have. So it's about really giving yourself what it is that you need, giving yourself what it is that you want. And some of you might be thinking, well, how do I give myself a relationship? Well, you have a better relationship with yourself, right? Keep your word, right? Have a full life. I think it's really important that while you're dating, you need to put you on your to-do list, like take yourself out, do self-care, right? Spend time with your friends and family that are wonderful, honorable, positive people, right? Get into a hobby. Make sure that you have passions outside of love, out of romantic love is what I mean. But like you can feel love by loving yourself and loving others. People in your life that actually pour into you and love you too. It's not just about you loving, it's about you receiving love. But it's also taking care of yourself, eating healthy, exercising. And this is really about moving your body. I heard this saying in a TV show years ago. The TV show was called The Affair. And one of the things, they were getting away from those wildfires in California, and they had to keep moving because an older man had told the people that were walking through the wildfires, movement is life. We have to keep moving if we want to stay alive. And all the people who didn't move died. So it's so interesting because I'm always thinking about that. Movement is life. You need to keep moving. Mm-hmm. So if you're standing still, waiting for someone to come date you, you're never going to exude that vibrant, sexy energy that we talked about on the last podcast. It's important for you to have your own life. So you really need to embody the values that you have. What are some of the things you want to do in a relationship? Communicate better, have intimacy. So connect with people, do things that make you feel intimate and connected to yourself. So all those values, you can live up to them. If you want to travel with someone, travel for yourself first. See what it is that you like. And you may meet someone. I really believe that who you're looking for is going where you're going. You shouldn't be looking for someone that's going to hold you back. So continue to live the life that you want to live for yourself and make it fun and make it passionate and make it sexy, right? Feel confident about who you are. That's how you start to get ready, right? So if some of you are wondering how you're going to be able to do that, I have a free gift for you, the same free gift as before. I didn't get to say the name of it before, but I want to say the name now. It's 10 blind spots that keep the high achieving single woman from the love life she wants. There are blind spots that you may have. There may be things that you don't see that are in your way. But if you've achieved a lot of things for yourself in your life, you need to start looking at where you don't see the things that are blocking you, but still live that fulfilling life as you date. And some of the tips that I would give you when you're actually out there dating, right? I gave you the pre, the get real, get clear, get ready. But I want you to look at the look at the other piece where be clear about your intentions when you go on dates. Know why you're going on this date. And I would say the first thing is once you figured out this person is single and legally available, as in they're not married, right? Legally available, right? This person is divorced, okay, fully divorced, or the court has said they are legally single to date, which a lot of celebrities are doing now. Their divorce is not final, but they get the judge to say they're declared legally single now, that they can go date, so there's no problems. But most people aren't doing that, right? But you need to make sure the person you're dating is divorced, because you don't want someone playing relationship hokey pokey with you. And what that means is 1 foot in and 1 foot out, if you know the hokey pokey song. Like, you want someone that's fully available to date you, and you go on that date once you decide who it is, and like, be curious about the person, learn about them, ask intriguing questions. Don't get there to go, is this my soulmate? That's not going to work. That's not the vibe. Right. That's the kind of vibe you want to bring to a first date.
Well, and you're not going to feel that at the very beginning either.
No, you're not.
Just trying to get to know them and see if they interest you, really.
Exactly. And really, like, where is their head? What is it what do they want? And I always say to people, especially when I'm coaching women, I'm like, stop telling him every single thing you want the second he asks you, why you're dating. Just try to ask that question first to calm yourself down. Mm-hmm. And then a lot of the time it's ask and find out what they share, right? So because I've had clients that they'll share everything and then the guy pretends to mirror it and it's a whole fraud. I had a client that was actually dating someone that was married. She never even knew he was married. And when I say she didn't know, he told her mother, because he met her family, because that's how deep the relationship was, that he was going to go buy a ring and propose to her. And that's what was going on. And then she found out on Valentine's Day that he was married because his wife called her. And then she called me, well, she emailed me about a day or two later to tell me, and then we started working together. So that's crazy that people can live a double life. That's actually very scary. So that's why I'm always like, keep your hands close, keep the hand you have your cards close to the chest. Don't be guarded, but don't spill everything. Just ask and see where they're at. See what they're looking for, why they're dating right now, what where they are in their love life. And they'll share with you. They can say millions of things. They could say, they're dating to, be in a relationship or find the one, whatever they say. Mm-hmm. If they say they were looking for the right person to be in a relationship and get married, listen to what they're saying. And then you can share yours after they finish sharing and see if they're that person, right? If you get to go on a second date, a third date, watch their actions. They said that. Besides that, is this the person for you? Are they aligning with what it is that you want as well? Because when you're on the date, you should be curious to be getting to know who they are as a person, as a human being, right? You want to connect. So be curious about them so the date's interesting. And make sure they're curious about you. If they're not curious about you, that's not good.
Yeah.
You need to go on a date with someone that's curious about you too. And if
Right.
that's working, you connect, like ask each other deeper questions. If you continue to date, every time you go on a date, I want you to keep in mind, we're here to connect as human beings, right? We're here to get to know one another. And we'll decide where that goes to based on how we're vibing with each other and how I'm being treated by this person. I always say, like, don't get physical with a person that's not treating you right. And I would never recommend, we're all adults, everyone's going to just do what they want to do. But I wouldn't recommend getting sexual with someone who has not expressed exclusivity with you and, jumping the gun. I've just seen a lot of clients get hurt when they have sex too quickly. But if there isn't anything serious and you two aren't, deciding you want to be exclusive, take your time to get to know who this person is. Right. I mean, nothing's more annoying than having had sex with someone and then you're like, I don't like this person, or they disappear, right? So it's important for you to take your time with that part, because as you grow older and mature, you get wiser. So take this time to say, you know what? I don't need to jump and be physical right away with this person. Let's see if we're on the same page, because then we can end it as friends if we're not right for each other. And maybe down the road, that person can introduce me to someone else. I've seen this happen. I always tell people, be nice to the people you're on dates with. What if you see each other down the road and you run into them and you're at an event and you're with a friend, and that friend could be the person that you're supposed to spend the rest of your life with? Yeah. You never know. Because if you were a good person, people remember that, right? So it's really about being a good person, being curious, connecting, and be kind, right? Yeah. That's the other piece. You don't need to be a jerk because it doesn't work out. Just be respectful, be kind. But as you're dating, you need to respect yourself. So if a person's trying to cross your boundaries on these dates, if you're being curious, you're connecting with them, you're being kind, you're caring for yourself, if they're communicating with you in ways that are not respectful, if they're throwing sexual jokes in on a first date, and you're like, hold up, wait a second, like, this is not what I'm looking for, you need to be aware of that. And if you just kind of change the subject and get off the sexual note and they bring it back, even if they're hot, right? Like, oh, this person's so attractive, I like what they do for a living. Think about what they're saying to you, right? Like, they're trying to rush this part of the date. They're trying to rush this part of the relationship. There really isn't an official relationship, but there is some kind of relationship, as in you're speaking to one another, you're on a date. But is this where you want it to go? So you have to be able,
because in their mind, if that's what they're talking about, that's exactly where they want it to go. They want to jumpstart, go right there.
Exactly. And I hear a lot of the time it's testing. People are testing each other. And I find that, like, well, if you're, if you want people to know you're serious, like, change the subject. If you're not into that. And if you get more uncomfortable, it's safe to end the date. Yeah. It's safe to end the date if someone's getting too sexual. And now it's the other way around, where if it's, dating like a king, my interpretation of that would be, you direct the lady to a different conversation. Ask her how she grew up, where, like, what were some of her most fun things growing up. Change the subject, bring it towards family, because, both people can get hurt. Like, if it's a woman, who's being that way, like, you don't want to offend her either. So just say something to change the subject. If she keeps going that way, you can laugh it off and just, give her a nice compliment and then ask her what she's looking for. Because at this point, she is describing it by being so sexual. So just get to the point and ask. And if you don't want that, but you still like her, you can slow it down and say, I find you very attractive, but, like, I'm really into you and I want to get to know you better. We could do that later, just not right now, because it's a different when it's masculine and feminine energy. Now, with a woman, if a man is being, very sexual, and if you've changed the subject twice, that's enough to be like, I can't do this. Because it's
like me, if that happens, I change it once. And if he goes back again, then I cut the date. I cut the date off.
It's very different. Yeah. And I know that's weird, but, like, that's just the way the energy goes. I mean, she can, bring up something else and see where he takes it. Like she can do the same thing and bring up family. But I find that, like, if he's constantly bringing that up, no matter what you say, it's different. And you can ask him what he wants.
I wanted to say a couple things I was thinking as you were talking. It's like, one is, I think we all have intuitive skills, right? And so we all have that. And so when we're on a date, use that. If you don't feel comfortable, if the conversation isn't going south and you don't like the way it's going, like you said, try to change it. If it doesn't change, then say, make up an excuse if you have to, then break the date. Say, listen, it was great meeting you, but unfortunately I need to go. I didn't realize I needed to do whatever, and leave, because you're taking the control back. Number one, you're taking the control back. And the other thing is, if you don't feel like it's gelling, then be honest about it. Say, listen, you seem like a nice guy, but you're on a different path than I'm on. I'm really wanting to get to know someone and be straight up. If he doesn't turn it around really quickly, then you've made the right judgment call. The other thing about being exclusive, I think it's very important that you be exclusive before you have sex, before you have sexual relations, and it really needs to be the guy coming forward saying he wants to be exclusive. Because if a guy is really into you, he wants you off the market. He immediately wants to get you off the market. And so he'll right away, if he really likes you, a lot of them will say, listen, I don't know where it's going to go, but what I'd like right now is for us to be exclusive, so us to work this out to see where we're going to go. And that's legit. I mean, because, you have to take sometimes months before you really know truly what you want as you're building the relationship. But if you hop right in bed, we're all human. But if you hop in bed, then what happens is you've missed several steps, right? Because dating is a dance, isn't it? And it's kind of a back and forth volleyball game type of thing too. And it's, but it can be so much fun. It can be rewarding for both parties. But if we speed it up too quickly, we really miss out on some of the parts that are so wonderful. So let's do that. I mean, I've heard so many people want to like just speed right through it and get, and that's just not how it works. When you're dating, you've got to take it slow as you're moving forward.
I completely agree.
I was thinking when you were talking.
No, I love this. And because I'm all about the intuition, right? Mm-hmm. Because you can just leave that date. And I say, if a person is being rude and being disrespectful and crossing your boundaries, you literally don't owe them anything. When someone is being disrespectful, when you've been respectful and kind, that's it. Do not invest. You don't owe them anything. Just say, you know what? We're both looking for two different things. It's not a match. You enjoy the rest of your night and leave. And if they get just ignore them and leave. If you're leaving a bar, and I don't recommend going to a bar to meet people. I do not recommend that. If you're going to meet someone, meet them at a restaurant. Mm-hmm. I'm just going to say this, like, I had a dear friend that said, dating is expensive. We live in New York. So he was referring to dating in New York as expensive because dinners are expensive. I said, he brought up coffee. I was like, don't take her to coffee. I said, take her to brunch. It's a casual, like, afternoon thing. You could do it in the daytime, and you can really get to know people better in the daytime, and see what they're about. And you can have your whole day still. I think it's really important that you balance that out. If things get too much, I say, don't go on drink dates, because a drink date is really just trying to get you to lower your inhibitions. Coffee is not an investment at all. And I say that because specifically women, right, invest in getting ready for dates. If you're only investing coffee and a woman invested in her hair, her nails, her outfit, everything she's doing to prepare for that date, and that's just our processes, like, that's how women can be. Like, I think it's important to look at, like, are you invested in really getting to know me? And brunch is something to me that's fair. Like, it's moderately priced. And I say that because a lot of younger people are talking about, like, well, this gets expensive and, I want to take people out, but I'm like, well, then find like a happy medium. But I know that when someone is really wanting to get to know you and they're serious, they're invested in dinner and they're invested in brunch. They're not going to invite you for coffee if they're very serious about you. Because the last thing a man wants to do is be compared to the guy that took you out to dinner, okay, or the guy that took you out to brunch. And it's important to just look at how invested you are, because women are showing up fully. And if a man wants to date like a king, he has to show up like a king. The same way being able to provide. The same way women who are high achieving and accomplished show up like queens because how they take care of themselves, and they're not trying to be in the masculine role. I'm here to tell you that the women that I've worked with over the years that are high achieving and accomplished women, they're not trying to be the masculine in their relationships. They're trying to find a person that appreciates who they are as women and is someone that's safe to be with. And they're also independent. So there'd be equality in that relationship and, a partnership. So I think it's important to look like, if we want to date like a king, if you're a gentleman, show up like a gentleman and be a king. And the same thing for the ladies. You don't want to show up codependent. You don't want to show up like you can't provide for yourself, but you also don't want to throw that in people's faces. You can be proud that you can provide for yourself. I'm a woman that is, independent and self-sufficient, but I am a very feminine woman, but that doesn't mean I give away my power because I'm feminine. Right. So I think there needs to be a balance. When we say king and queen, you're showing up in a way that you're able to date that way with how you carry yourself. So I think it's, the financial piece always gets a little tricky, but I think, like I said, I always try to, when it's a lot of the younger viewers who aren't making as much money, I always tell the gentleman, I'm like, do brunch. It'll show that you care. It's also fun. It's during the day. And I think one of the important things as you're dating, maybe you're nervous and you like somebody a lot and you're putting a lot on a first date or a third date or a fifth date. The advice I have for everyone, right? Men, women, non-binary, and however you identify, I think it's very important to not just make your whole life the day of the date about the date. I think you need to go to like an exercise class, that's just an example, or do your meditations or see a friend earlier that day for breakfast, do a spa treatment or something that you could do at home, a spa treatment, do your day. Maybe do a short, in Spanish we say do a compra, which means go food shopping. So do like a little grocery shop. Do the things you do out your day, give yourself time to rest and then get ready for your date. And I always say when the dates are early on, schedule something with your friends after the date. Maybe make sure your date's early enough, maybe 6, 7 o'clock. And if the date's like 2 hours or whatever the case may be, like if it doesn't go well, make sure you see your friends. And maybe after do that. Or maybe spend time with your friends before the date and then just, go home. But if you make the date your whole center, you're more anxious on the date. You forget who you are on the date. But when you do those things, you valued yourself the whole day as a whole person. You didn't forget about yourself. So it sets the tone as you continue to date this person. And if it works out or you go on more dates with different people, you never forget yourself. Because once you're in a relationship, the one thing I tell all my clients who are men, women, right? I always say to them, make sure that you're not forgetting about yourself once you're in a relationship with this person, right? Because I've seen a lot of clients who have forgotten, and that's how they got to the coaching. They forgot who they were when they were in a relationship. So dating like a queen and a king at any level means dating is the whole journey. Just because you get to the level of commitment doesn't mean you stop dating. If you're married, you should still be dating your spouse. You should still be going out with them and, dressing up and being sexy for yourself and for them, for just because you care about each other. It's a mutual
right. It doesn't mean just because you're committed that you say, okay, we want to be in a committed relationship, that it ends and now you just sit home and watch TV and they snore in the chair. Yeah,
sounds like
I totally get that. Well, listen, we're going to have to close the show because it goes so fast, but I hope you'll come back on again because we would love to have you.
Oh, I would love to come back. I'd love to.
We would love to have you. So again, Lisa, She's the founder of Lisa Talks Love, self-love coach, certified sex educator, and a dating relationship coach. You can find her website on lisatalkslove.com. And then she's got a free gift. So just go to the website, Lisa Talks Love. That's talks, TALKS, love.com. And then it's just a free gift in there. And then you said, what is it called?
It's called the 10 blind spots that keep the high achieving single woman from the love life she wants.
Wow, that's great. And guys, you know what? Go ahead and get it, because if you want to learn about a woman, the best thing to do is just learn, get the information and read it and divulge it, and try to get into it and really sink your teeth in it and get to know her for who she is. And so what better way to learn how she's going to think as she's dating. So yeah, I think that's great. So it went by so quickly. So thank you so much. I so appreciate you. And I hope that we'll get you back on again real soon. So again, everyone, you're on Date the Right One, WGSN-DB, Going Solo Network. We are a radio, TV, and a podcast station. We are the #1 internet singles talk network, changing lives one talk show at a time. You can find all of our information right there on goingsolonetwork.com. All of our wonderful hosts and guests, and we've got all kinds of pages there for you to see, links that you can go to. And so enjoy it. Join our fan club. We have a fan club. So all of our guests and hosts and everybody that wants to be on the show, if you want to know a little bit more about it, join it, and we can get some further information out to you. So join our fan club. We'd appreciate it. So again, I'm Cece Shatz, the Doyenne of Relationship Building. I want to thank you so much for joining me. If you want to email me, I love to get your emails. goingsolonetwork@gmail.com. I read them personally, answer them personally. So please go ahead and send me a message, goingsolonetwork@gmail.com. Let me know what you think about the show, what you'd like to have on. And, we just try to do the best for you that we can. So we will talk to you next time. Bye for now. Thanks, Lisa.